7500 is a brand new dramatic thriller starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays a pilot who is stuck in a very tricky situation when his plane starts to be hijacked, and he must do everything he can to not let the terrorists into the cockpit. Also, just to clarify, for those of you that maybe haven't seen the movie yet or just don't know, 7500 is the code that pilots give to air traffic control when their plane is being hijacked, hence why the movie is called 7500 and not 7500, which is what I've heard some people call it. Now, I'm going to be honest, this movie was practically right up my street. I love thrillers that are contained within a small location and make the most out of such a simple premise. And also, I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt as an actor. So this was kind of a win-win scenario in my books. And for the most part, 7500 delivers exactly what you're expecting in the best way possible. It is an incredibly tense movie that really does make the most out of such a simple premise. Having the entire movie contained to just the cockpit of this plane really squeezes every ounce of tension you can get out of a situation like this. And I mean, the premise alone is quite tense as it is. You've got one pilot stuck in a cockpit and he's desperately trying not to let these terrorists get in, even though they try on multiple occasions to smash their way into the cockpit. That alone should be tense enough, but the way this movie is filmed and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's performance really do add to the sense of tension. And that is one thing I've got to say. Joseph Gordon-Levitt knocks it out the park in this movie, and it's really nice to see him back in a movie again, because as far as I'm aware, he's kind of taken a bit of a break for about 6 years from acting, and I think that is mostly due to him having a child. But yeah, it's really nice to see him back, because I've actually kind of missed him being in movies. And for this to be his comeback is a bit of an odd choice, because this doesn't seem like the usual kind of project that Joseph Gordon-Levitt would do. But that being said, he makes the most of this situation and this story and really, really knocks it out of the park. And I do think this movie wouldn't be nearly as good if his performance wasn't as great as it was. He definitely does carry the movie for the most part. And yeah, if his performance wasn't as intense as it needed to be for this film, then I don't think this movie would have worked if, say, a different actor was in that position. The movie is also very well directed by Patrick Vollrath. I think I pronounced his name properly. But yeah, he does a really good job directing this movie. Again, you can't really do much in such a confined setting of a plane cockpit, but he makes a very wise choice of having the whole movie filmed handheld. Not shaky cam, but handheld. And it really does work for the sake of the movie. And I would say that the look of the movie and the feel of the movie kind of lays somewhere between Paul Greengrass's United 93 and Stephen Knight's Locke. Even though the movie is nothing like Locke, I would say that is the best way I can, compare the feel and look of this movie. Look-wise, it looks a lot like Locke with Tom Hardy in, because you're confined to just one vehicle, like a very small environment, and you just have one actor for the most part to deal with. And it feels like United 93 because, well, that should be pretty self-explanatory. It's a hijacking on a plane, and it's filmed in a very handheld style. Although that being said, the camera work in this movie is nowhere near as hectic as Paul Greengrass's can be. The camera work in this movie is a lot more controlled and nowhere near as in your face with its style. It just kind of is there, and it almost kind of acts as a secondary person in the cockpit with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. So, you have a simple and small claustrophobic thriller that is incredibly tense and nail-biting and very well made, with a brilliant lead performance at the centre of it all. What could possibly be wrong with this movie? Well, in all fairness, one of the main issues with this movie is that it doesn't really do much else beyond that initial premise. Yeah, for the most part, when you're in the moment, stuck inside this very tense situation of the pilot not trying to let terrorists into the cockpit, it is very exhilarating and tense in that moment. But the movie doesn't really do anything else outside of that to, grab your attention and make you think about stuff after the movie has finished. I'll go back to another example, but Locke, even though it's not really a thriller, is a movie that does make you think a lot about what you've just watched and the characters that are in the movie a whole lot more once the film is actually finished, because you have one character stuck in a car for the whole movie, and just through his conversations with various people over the phone, there is a lot of character development and character interactions and a lot of emotional pieces throughout that film that really stick with you long after the movie is finished, therefore making it not just a very simple and effective movie, but something that is a little bit more than that. With this film, you just kind of get the basic premise, and it executes all of the aspects you would expect that kind of premise, all the things you'd expect from that story. And it doesn't really do much else on top of that, especially from a character or emotional perspective. It does a few things here and there that maybe go against the grain and are quite interesting for them, for that small period that it happens. But unfortunately, they are so few and far between, and they are very, very short moments where the characters can truly express their emotion, or something truly, game-changing in the story happens. For the most part, you just kind of get exactly what you are expecting to get, and that's about it. If that's what you're going in for, like myself, then you will enjoy this movie. But I just kind of wish it could have done a little bit more. I don't know what exactly it could have done, but I just feel like it could have pushed a little bit more outside of that simple concept that it sticks to. Also, my other issue with this movie is that after about the 1 hour mark, the movie does actually kind of struggle with trying to keep the concept going. I would say the last 30 to 20 minutes of this film they're not boring per se, but it just feels so kind of anticlimactic compared to what came before it. Everything that happens whilst the plane is in the air and you're following Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character really closely in the cockpit, all of that aspect of the movie is enthralling to watch purely because of his performance, but also the camera work does add to that as well. But when a certain thing happens and you get like the last 30 to 20 minutes of this movie, it just kind of feels like the movie slows down a bit and doesn't quite know where else to take this concept that it's stuck with for the entirety of the movie. Overall, 7500 is a pretty decent thriller that is very well made and has a brilliant performance from Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the centre of it all, which is why I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10, leaning more towards a 7 than a 6. But I don't really think I can go any higher than that, purely because it doesn't deliver much else outside of a tense, low-budget thriller that you're expecting. So guys, that was my review of 7500. I'll be interested to know what your thoughts about this movie are in the comments below. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye.